Join me as I take on the challenge of finding my inner peace in just 1 week. Let's see if I can really do it. Picture this. You're sitting in your car after a long day, engine off, streetlights flickering through the windshield. It's quiet, but your mind's louder than rush hour traffic. Thoughts rolling in like waves in a storm. Did I say the right thing? Did I do enough? Why do I feel so empty? That right there is the noise I'm talking about. Not the kind you hear with your ears, the kind that hums behind your smile, behind your grind. That invisible static that never lets you rest. See, we all live in a world that's addicted to loud opinions, loud schedules, loud expectations. It's like we've forgotten what silence even sounds like, and what it feels like to just be. Let me tell you something. When I was younger, I thought success would silence the noise. I thought if I worked hard enough, got famous enough, made enough money, earned enough respect, then maybe, just maybe, that buzz in my head would stop. But it didn't, because you can't outrun your own unrest. It wasn't until I learned to sit with myself, and I mean really sit, no music, no phone, no plans, just me and God, me and the moment, that's when the shift started. I realized, peace is not the absence of chaos around you, it's the decision to quiet the war within you. You want to know the truth? Some of us are so busy filling our calendars, we never stop to ask what our soul's starving for. And I promise you this, your spirit is not hungry for busyness, it's hungry for stillness. We keep thinking that peace will show up after we fix everything out there, after the money's right. The house is clean, the kids are quiet, the job's stable, but real peace, the kind that lasts, that comes when you choose it before the world earns it. That means saying no, sometimes even when it makes people uncomfortable. That means putting your phone face down and your heart face up. That means turning down the volume of everybody else's opinion so you can finally hear your own voice again. Let me tell you, that voice, that still, small whisper inside you, that's not weakness. That's not background noise. That's your truth. And when you learn to listen to that, when you let it lead instead of the noise, that's when peace walks in the room like it owns the place. So the next time the world starts getting too loud, don't just reach for the remote or the drink or the distraction. Reach for yourself, sit in the silence, let the storm settle, because there's a calm in you that's been waiting to speak, but it'll never shout. You just got to be still enough to hear it. Everybody's got a past. Everybody's got a chapter they don't read out loud, and too many of us are out here walking like we're ashamed of the very path that made us who we are. Let me be real with you, for a long time I wore a mask. Not a physical one, no. I'm talking about that invisible mask you put on when the world expects you to smile, to shine, to perform. And underneath that smile I was carrying a storm. Failures I didn't want to admit. Scars I was scared to show. Mistakes that whispered, "You're not worthy." But you know what I learned? You cannot outrun the parts of you that need healing. And you cannot find peace until you stop pretending you've never been hurt. There's a freedom that only comes when you stop hiding from your own story. I'm not saying it's easy. I know some of you have lived through hell, abandonment, abuse, heartbreak, betrayal. Maybe you were told you weren't enough. Maybe you started to believe it. Maybe you buried so much pain that now even your joy feels distant, fake, fragile. But hear me, your peace is buried under the truth you're too afraid to face. Because the moment you say, "Yes, this happened to me. Yes, I've been broken, but that's not where my story ends." That's the moment you take your power back. See, what we run from owns us, but what we face, what we speak aloud, what we embrace with grace, that's what we heal. That's what transforms. You ever watch a movie and see a character go through some mess, I mean real pain, and by the end, they've come through it, stronger, wiser, even more beautiful because of what they've survived? Well, guess what? That's you. That's your life. You ain't a side character in somebody else's plot. You are the main story, and baby, you're still writing it. We've got to stop seeing our past as something to erase. That pain, that loss, that lesson, it wasn't for nothing. It carved you, it refined you, it taught you what love is and what it's not. It taught you how to fight, how to rise, how to stand still in the middle of a storm and still breathe. And there's someone out there, maybe your child, maybe your neighbor, maybe a stranger, who's gonna find the courage to own their story because they saw you own yours. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. You don't have to be healed to be worthy. You just have to be honest. So tonight, if you've been carrying your story like it's a burden, let me remind you, it's not. It's a badge. It's a testament. It's a holy hard-earned beautiful truth that nobody else in this world can claim but you. Stand in it, speak it, and watch how peace starts to rise from the places you thought were ruined. You ever been in a room full of people, but feel completely alone? I'm talking about those moments where everybody's talking, everybody's posting, everybody's scrolling, but nobody's really here. Nobody's really present, and maybe you're sitting right there too, with a phone in your hand, thumb on autopilot, feed after feed, reel after reel, trying to fill a space that technology can't reach. Let me tell you something that took me years to learn. Just because we're more connected than ever doesn't mean we're any closer to ourselves. We wake up to alarms from our phones. We check emails before we say good morning to our loved ones. We listen to podcasts while brushing our teeth, answer texts in the bathroom, and scroll until we fall asleep. And then we wonder why we can't hear our own thoughts anymore, why we feel like something's missing even when everything seems on. Let me be honest, I was guilty of it too. Caught up in the cycle, filling every quiet moment with noise because stillness made me uncomfortable. But I realized every time I reached for that device instead of reaching for myself, I was drifting further from the very peace I claimed to be looking for. Because peace doesn't shout, it doesn't come with notifications or alerts. Peace whispers, and if you're too busy chasing noise, you'll miss it every single time. There's a sacred power in disconnecting. And I'm not just talking about logging off social media for a few hours. I mean stepping away from the pressure to perform, the need to respond, the addiction to being seen, and stepping back into your own presence. You gotta ask yourself, when was the last time I sat with me? No distractions, no filters, no noise, just me, my breath, and my creator. You ever notice how the most peaceful moments in life are also the quietest? A walk at sunrise, waves lapping the shore, rain on the roof. That moment of stillness before everyone else wakes up. That's the universe reminding you you don't have to be plugged into the world to feel alive. Sometimes you gotta unplug to come back to life. You know, we spend so much time trying to stay connected. But connected to what exactly? To headlines, to trends, to strangers who don't even know your heart. Maybe what your soul's really craving is a deeper connection to the people right in front of you, to the voice inside of you, to the God who's been waiting in the quiet all along. And here's the truth. You cannot pour from an empty spirit. You cannot hear divine direction when you're drowning in digital distraction. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is put the phone down, step outside, feel the air, and remember you were created for more than likes, links, and logins. You were created to feel, to listen, to live fully, and you can't do that on autopilot. So every now and then, give yourself the gift of disconnection, not as an escape, but as a return to what matters, a return to your breath, a return to your peace. Because when you disconnect from the noise of the world, you finally start to reconnect with the rhythm of your soul. Peace is not something that just happens to you. It's not a lightning strike. It's not luck. It's not a feeling that shows up when life finally gets itself together. Peace is something you've got to build, brick by brick, breath by breath, day by day. It's like a fire. You don't light it once and expect it to stay warm forever. You gotta feed that fire. You gotta protect it from the wind, from the rain, from all the things that try to blow it out, and trust me, life will try. See, people always talk about how they're searching for peace, but they never ask themselves if they're actually making room for it. You can't have peace if all you feed your mind is chaos. You can't expect stillness if your spirit's on a steady diet of stress. You can't live in harmony if your habits are out of tune. Let me tell you what I know. Discipline is the backbone of peace. You want a calm mind, you need consistent practice. You want still waters, you gotta stir them the right way every morning. Me, I start my day early, before the world starts shouting. I sit with the silence, I pray. I give thanks even when I don't feel like it. I remind myself that I don't wake up by accident. I remind myself that if I don't set my own tone, the world will do it for me. And let me tell you, the world ain't in the business of peace. Maybe for you, it's not prayer. Maybe it's journaling. Maybe it's walking. Maybe it's just 5 minutes of breathing without checking a single screen. But whatever it is, you gotta do it on purpose. You gotta build rituals that restore you. Because if you don't fill your own cup, you'll go thirsty in a crowd. You ever see a house that looks strong on the outside, but it's crumbling inside because nobody's maintaining it? That's what happens to us when we ignore the internal work. We post, we perform, we pretend, but inside we're tired, anxious, hollow. Peace doesn't come from appearance, it comes from alignment, and alignment takes maintenance. It takes choosing not to argue with every fool that pokes your spirit. It takes knowing what drains you and learning how to let it go. It takes setting boundaries, not just with people, but with your own habits. You gotta feed your fire with intention, with time and reflection, with words that speak life, with quiet moments that ground you, with the kind of fuel that doesn't burn out purpose, truth, love. Because the truth is, your peace is too valuable to leave to chance. If you want it, you gotta fight for it, not with fists, but with focus. Not with noise, but with daily, deliberate choices that say, I will protect what keeps me sane. I will honor what heals me. I will not neglect my own soul. So tend to your fire. Guard it like it's sacred, because it is. And every day you feed that fire, even with something small, you build the kind of peace that doesn't flinch when the wind picks up. There's something powerful that happens when you stop asking, what can I get? And start asking, what can I give? See, the world will tell you that peace comes from achieving more success, more validation, more money, more things, and so we chase. We run hard after goals, dreams, deadlines, hoping that if we check enough boxes, one day the anxiety will disappear. But I'm here to tell you, peace doesn't live at the top of the mountain. It lives in the valley where your hands are dirty, your heart is open, and your life is being used for something bigger than yourself. I've been on stages, I've walked red carpets, I've had people clap for me just because my name was in lights. But let me be honest with you, the moments that brought me the deepest peace, they didn't come from the spotlight. They came in the silence when I was helping someone who couldn't repay me, when I was listening to someone who just needed to be heard, when I was giving without asking for anything back. That's the kind of peace this world can't buy. Because when you really serve, you stop obsessing over yourself. Your flaws, your stress, your schedule, they shrink. And something in your spirit stretches wider than your problems. You begin to soar, not because your life is perfect, but because your heart is finally in the right place. And listen, service don't have to be some grand gesture. You don't need a stage or a platform to make a difference. You just need presence. You just need willingness to lift someone up, to check in on that friend, to forgive when it's hard, to say, I see you, I got you, I believe in you. You ever see someone's eyes light up because of a kindness you gave them? That's soul work, that's sacred, that's peace finding its way through you, not just to you. When you take your time, your energy, your story, and you pour it into someone else's cup, you're not losing anything. You're multiplying it. The truth is, peace expands when it's shared. It deepens when it's practiced, and it becomes unshakable when it's connected to purpose. That's what people don't tell you. Sometimes the best way to heal your heart is to help someone else carry theirs. Sometimes the thing that saves you is showing up for someone else. So no, peace isn't always quiet. Sometimes it's loud in the form of laughter you helped bring back. Sometimes it's soft in the comfort you gave with no words. Sometimes it's invisible, but you feel it deep down because you know your life just made someone else's load a little lighter. And that, right there, that's how you rise, that's how you soar. Not by standing above others, but by kneeling beside them. Not by having it all, but by giving what you've got. Because peace, real peace, grows wild when you plant it in the lives around you. Now, I want you to take a breath, let it in and let it out, because everything I've said tonight, it's not just a message, it's a mirror, a reflection of what you already know deep down, the peace you're looking for. It's not out there in the next job, the next relationship, the next like, or paycheck or applause. It's already inside you waiting for you to slow down long enough to hear it, waiting for you to silence the noise. To own your story, to disconnect so you can finally reconnect, to feed that quiet fire in your soul, and to serve not for recognition, but because your heart was made to give. You see, we live in a world that keeps trying to sell us peace like it's a product. But you can't buy peace, you become it, when you choose honesty over perfection, stillness over speed, purpose over pressure, grace over guilt. You become the kind of presence that calms a room. You become the kind of light that doesn't flicker in the dark. And I promise you the world needs that version of you. Not the one that's constantly hustling for approval. Not the one that's always on. But the you that's grounded, whole, awake, alive, at peace. So my challenge for you, not tomorrow, not next week, but tonight, is to take one step. One honest step toward that inner stillness. Whether it's 5 minutes of silence, one truth spoken, one thing you let go of, or one hand you choose to lift. Because when you choose peace, you give the world permission to do the same, and that's how the healing begins, one soul at a time, starting with yours. Thank you. God bless you, and keep walking toward the quiet, because in that quiet, you'll finally hear who you really are.